What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. There is a very big problem that is occurring in court right now, and it is that Colonel Stein analyzed data without taking into account time zone differences. So, these time zone differences, there are UTC and others and others. Colonel Stein was supposed to add 2 hours to the download data that he had gotten, but he didn't.
And then I just want to mention, maybe in the previous one we didn't make it clear about the 2 hour rule. And I also think I forgot to add it to my stat, to my Excel spreadsheet. That is where the misunderstandings come.
Sorry, you say you didn't mention the 2 hour rule in which document?
In my previous statement.
The previous statement?
That's correct.
Yeah, just tell us the page, the paragraph, so that we all...
That is on page 23.
On page 23?
Yeah. Now, if we go to page 23 of my old statement,
yeah.
If we read the time, it must be 22:40:47. And if we go to exhibit number KK4, then we trace the call using data. And now the court must also keep in mind, this information won't be to the disposal of Vodacom, because it's coming straight from the download.
Yeah, that's critical. Just explain that to us. Because the supposition or allegation is that there were numbers which, when they are compared with those which are on the PDF,
That's correct.
they don't correspond with the numbers on the parcel.
That's correct, yeah.
Just explain that concept, because then it means this is fabricated.
Yeah.
Because the numbers must be the same. If they're not the same, there's manipulation, there's fraud, etc.
No, that is in the beginning of the cell phone downloads. They did mention the UTC 2 plus UTC 2.
Yeah.
Then you must add the 2 hours. That comes in with the download of the cell phone information.
Right.
So then every time you have to count it plus. Some other countries is more, like 6 hours, but ours is 2.
So it's 2 hours.
Yeah. So if you just take your 205 and you read the time, and you're not adding the 2 hours on the download, it will looks like it's overlapping.
So now, by Colonel Stein not adding these 2 hours to the times that he had gotten to the download data, it means that his data did not align with real time. This is very, very critical, because it actually explains why the call times do not match with the times in the section 205 statements, which are in real time. So what is happening is that section 205 statements from service providers like Vodacom are in real time, but the downloads from the cell phone have a UTC plus 2 hour time difference. So there are these calls that were being made by these suspects, and they were being linked to the Khumalo house with the statements that were being said by the witnesses at specific times, and that was being linked. But now those times do not match, because of this 2 hour difference. So the argument that can be brought forward by the defense is that the data analysis that was done by Colonel Stein was actually flawed or misleading, and it raises a lot of questions about the accuracy of any comparisons made between the download data and the section 205 statements. So a significant potential consequence here of this time zone discrepancy, it is that by adding this 2 hour shift now, there is going to be like a misalignment of timelines. So the call records that were being made from the accused cell phones that were presented during the analysis by Colonel Stein, they have to be shifted by 2 hours. And as you all know, this incident that occurred at the Khumalo house, it happened in just like 30 minutes time it was done. This misalignment is definitely going to impact the prosecution's timeline of events, and it could create a lot of discrepancies in the accused alibi or any other time-sensitive evidence. So essentially, if the time is wrong, the evidence is definitely going to be wrong. And this time zone error, it casts doubt on the overall credibility of the cell phone data analysis. And the defense obviously is to argue that this data is unreliable and cannot be used. So the solution here is to actually reanalyze the entire data, because this terms and discrepancy is very, very big for it to be ignored. So these timestamps must definitely be corrected and the call records must be re-evaluated. So the big question for the accused is that will they be released based on this time zone error on the cell phone data analysis? Because initially they were being said that they were located at this cell phone tower and they were at the Kumalo house at this specific time based on the cell phone records. But now we can see that there is this huge time zone difference. They may not be automatically released, but what we can tell right now is that this seriously weakens the prosecution's case, because this error is very, very big. So obviously Judge Rata is going to consider the totality of the entire evidence that has been presented to him and not just this error only. But the defense definitely has to hold on to this evidence for dear life to try and weaken the prosecution's case. But this is a very big, big mistake. And I have to ask, how can an expert make such an error? This is a valid question, by the way, and this is an expert. And for an expert like Colonel Stein to make this error, oh my God, it's huge. But of course, this is a human error, and experts are obviously susceptible to mistakes, and overlooking a crucial detail like terms and difference is also very possible. Maybe he was under pressure or probably tired, or maybe lacked thoroughness through the sheer volume of the data that was involved. But I just cannot imagine, if he hadn't pointed it out himself that, oh my God, I made this error, and he hadn't figured it out, what would have happened? Because if nobody noticed that error from the defense side, it could have been a disaster. And now that we are scratching our heads and wondering how can an expert make such an error, obviously you cannot be faulted for asking and saying, what other errors did he make also? Because if you can make an error, obviously you might have made more errors in your work. And what this means is that Colonel Stein's work definitely needs an independent reviewer, and not just one reviewer, maybe 2 or 3 other people who are going to review the entire work and going through everything right from the start, because we no longer want to be told again in the future that I made an error here. Independent reviewers, they definitely help minimize this, the probability of that data being wrong. It sort of reduces significantly. So at least that is my solution to Colonel Stein's error. Bring in an independent reviewer to review all of this. And on top of that, this data has to be reanalyzed again, as I just said. Tell me any other solutions that you might have. I'll catch you guys on the next one.